Dr. Mundo, a creature of madness and unrelenting violence, is a nightmarish sight in the streets of Zaun. His horrific purple form strikes fear into the hearts of those who dare venture out after dark, with many locking themselves indoors to avoid his unpredictable presence. Driven by a twisted obsession with pain, both inflicting it and experiencing it, he wields his enormous meat cleaver with ease, leaving a trail of tortured victims in his wake. His so-called operations have no purpose beyond his own sadistic whims. Brutal and chaotic, Mundo goes wherever he pleases, his actions as erratic as they are terrifying. Despite his self-proclaimed title, he is not, in any real sense, a doctor. Welcome back, lore lovers. You are watching Lion Drag, where we dive deep into the stories that shape our favorite worlds. Today, we are exploring the twisted tale of Dr. Mundo from League of Legends, a creature of madness and pain, lurking in the shadows of Zaun. Let's get into it. On the shadowy streets of Zaun, few figures inspire as much fear as Dr. Mundo, a monstrous purple behemoth whose presence alone keeps citizens locked behind closed doors on the darkest nights. With a chilling love for both inflicting and enduring pain, he wields his enormous meat cleaver as if it were an extension of himself. Mundo's operations leave a trail of captured and tortured victims, their purpose as incomprehensible as the man himself. Unrelenting and chaotic, he roams without constraint, a self-proclaimed doctor in title alone. Legends of Mundo's origins are as varied as they are unsettling. Some claim he first appeared as a reeking infant crawling through Piltover's bustling markets, sending aristocrats fleeing from the stench. Others insist he was born in Zaun, cutting his teeth in the sewers where he wrestled some brats into submission. The one certainty, by the age of 3, he found himself at the doorstep of Zaun Asylum for the irreparably troubled. The asylum's inmates wisely kept their distance from the strange, purple-skinned boy. To the staff, however, he was a living enigma. They didn't see a boy in need of care, but a specimen to study. Questions swirled. What turned him purple? Who could have possibly survived bringing such a creature into the world? In less than a year at the asylum, the doctors came to accept a simple truth. Mundo's startlingly bright purple skin was permanent. By the time he turned 4, they had also learned of his terrifying strength. An orderly discovered this firsthand when Mundo crushed his windpipe for failing to bring his preferred treat, toenails. At 6, they uncovered his bizarre relationship with pain, a fascination both unnerving and incomprehensible. Mundo didn't just endure pain, he seemed to welcome it. Left unattended, he would impale himself with sharp objects, seemingly for amusement. Around other patients, chaos inevitably followed. Agonized screams often erupted within moments of his presence. Sorry for this interruption, I'm here to tell you that if you like this, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support helps Lion Drag grow, and the more we grow, the more lore-packed videos I can bring to you. Don't miss out, help me build a community with lore lovers like you. The asylum staff, intrigued yet unnerved, decided passive observation wasn't enough. Their curiosity, or perhaps their boredom, spurred them to experiment on the purple enigma. They probed the limits of his pain tolerance with cruel tests. Needles under fingernails made him laugh. Red-hot irons on his fleet lulled him to sleep. Their frustration grew as no amount of pain elicited the expected reactions. Worse still, Mundo's body seemed to heal itself with unnatural speed, erasing the results of their efforts within hours. The deeper they delved into his physiology, the fewer answers they found, and the greater their unease became. Mundo's teenage years were a grim cycle of isolation and relentless torture, a life he found utterly delightful. The constant experiments conducted by the asylum doctors only fueled his admiration for them. In Mundo's eyes, they were masters of his greatest passion, pain. Their increasingly bizarre methods to test his limits, submerging his feet in acid or unleashing flesh-eating might on his face, were acts of brilliance to the purple youth. Over time, Mundo began to emulate his tormentors. He no longer referred to himself simply as Mundo, adopting instead the title Dr. Mundo. He'd swipe syringes from unsuspecting orderlies and concoct dubious medicines by mixing cavernberry juice with the unspeakable contents of his chamber pot. With a gleeful Mundo make medicine, he jabbed the mixture straight into his own skull. But self-experimentation grew dull, the thrill had waned, and Mundo craved something new. Years later, people would argue over his motives. Was he exacting revenge for the torment inflicted upon him, or was he simply a deranged psychopath with no regard for life? The truth was far simpler. Mundo had decided it was time to take his medical expertise to the next level by practicing on others. One fateful night, Mundo crept into the asylum's kitchen and laid his hands on a massive meat cleaver. With his newfound medical instrument, he roamed the halls, entering room after room. His operations had no discernible purpose beyond satisfying his twisted sense of amusement. Each patient received his peculiar brand of treatment, chaotic and cruel. By morning, the asylum was silent. Every resident had been cured, all except Mundo. From one of his unfortunate victims, he claimed a physician's coat, struggling to pull it over his hulking frame as it tore around his colossal muscles. At last, Mundo's dream was realized. He was a doctor. But a true doctor didn't keep his skills confined to one place. No, the world needed his unique expertise. Smashing through the locked doors of the asylum, Mundo stepped out into Zaun, retracing the steps where he'd first arrived as a child. With a grin stretched wide across his purple face and an eager bounce in his step, he marched into the streets. The doctor was ready to practice. Mundo is not so rich in relations, and we can all see why. The only kind of encounter he had with a known character is in the sump, where Dr. Mundo crossed paths with Ico. Viewing the boy only as another patient in need of his peculiar treatment, Mundo engaged him without any deeper recognition or intent. Whether the purple behemoth remembers this clash at all remains a mystery. That's it for today's dive into the lore lovers. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe so we can keep the lore flowing. And for even more discussions and behind the scenes chatter, join our Discord community. Let's build a cozy space where lore lovers can share thoughts, theories and stories. See you next time.